We're going to go to the international newspapers now. We've been talking an awful lot, of course, about the cruise shipwreck even, off the Italian coast. Quite a controversy developing in Italy, isn't there, Elena, over whether the crew helped save the tourists or not?
Yes, exactly. Look at this article in Corriere della Sera. We were left alone in the sea while they saved themselves. That paper has collected a bunch of witness statements from French and Italian tourists who were on that boat that shipwrecked. And they told the journalists that the crew got into the first lifeboats, sailed off and left them, including children and a pregnant woman who now says she plans to sue the company because she had to swim to the coast through freezing water. They say the crew didn't seem to have had any kind of training to deal with this sort of situation and that it was outrageous that they were incompetent. But look at this other article in La Repubblica, another leading Italian newspaper. They've spoken to some of the crew and they're furious at the way they've been represented in the media. They say Italian newspapers and television have lied by perpetrating this story about how they didn't help the people. They say that they did stay until the last minute. They helped everyone into the lifeboats properly. They all had proper training for doing that. And they even accuse some of the tourists involved of deliberately trying to make it look worse and say the crew were incompetent in the hope of managing to get some money out of the holiday company. So there's quite a controversy brewing there, as there is also with our environmentalists. There's another article in La Repubblica which is calling for all cruising to be banned in that area because they point out the ship was carrying 2,300 litres of gasoline, which could leak into what is a very vulnerable environment there around the Venice Lagoon, which of course has huge amounts of pollution problems already. So environmentalists are using this to call for banning of shipping in that area completely.
Incredible different stories, aren't there? Eurozone downgrading, I'm sure foreign press full of that as well.
Yes, the New York Times is having a field day with this piece, which really lays in not just to the current French government, but to the whole social model here in France, saying it is completely unsustainable and has been run, as some of the French economic papers pointed out earlier, on debt for the last 30 years, essentially. Now, they say that they sort of prescribe a traditionally Anglo-American neoliberal cure to this, saying that what France needs is more policies that make it easier to hire and fire people. They need less social protection and they need to work more hours a week. But of course, they also say that any French politician saying this at any point in the next 6 months in the run-up to the election would be political suicide. So now what the French politicians are all doing is running around promising that they can cut the debt while at the same time not affecting the French social model, which the paper says is completely impossible. Let's also have a look at Spain, which was badly hit by the Standard & Poor downgrading last week. The paper there, El País, basically accuses the credit ratings agencies of an Anglo-American conspiracy, saying that given the extent of debt in the US and of unemployment there, the US should be paying just as high rates on its borrowing costs as Spain and Italy are, which of course is far from being the case.
Now, some countries at these times might look like better investment prospects, maybe the UK?
Well, that's certainly what David Cameron and George Osborne are hoping investors are thinking. Have a look at today's Guardian cartoon. You've got David Cameron there at the front running away from Merkel and Sarkozy, who was sort of engaged in a brawl there, while George Osborne at the background is trying to sell Britain's so far intact AAA rating to Chinese investors. So they're having a laugh at what Cameron's trying to do there. But there is also another quite surprising piece inside where they show just how bad some of Britain's economy really is. Their reporters have been to Liverpool, where apparently up to 40% of households have no one there in work, and some people are living on as little as £20 a week. That's about 23, 24 euros, isn't it? Once they've paid for all their deductions for electricity and so on. So really sad stories there.
And some good news for Britain this morning. The hit TV show there, Downton Abbey, cleaned up at the Golden Globes.
Well, lots of the British papers are congratulating themselves on this, saying, well, at least we can make good TV. But the historian Simon Sharma has written a really critical piece for the Daily Beast, accusing Britain of cultural necrophilia, in exporting so many period dramas. He reckons that Americans so much like these sort of traditional-sounding conservative period dramas because they feed into America's anti-socialist, anti-feminist instincts and might even be fueling the Tea Party. I personally wouldn't think Tea Party voters are the same people as watching British period dramas, but that's what Simon Sharma thinks.
OK, all right, up to him, I suppose. Elena, thanks very much. That's Elena Casas with the international newspapers on France 5 Cap.